The views expressed on the following program do not necessarily reflect the views of Money Radio staff, management, or advertisers, and do not represent an offer to buy or sell any securities. Some interviews heard on this program may be sponsored by the participants. It's time for Health Futures with Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth. This is Arizona's only show dedicated to providing you with expert advice on how to live a longer, healthier, and happier life. To learn more, call 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Bob Roth.
Good afternoon. You're listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you. I'm your host, Bob Roth, and it must be Friday, and indeed it is. It is Friday. We're coming at you live from the Scottsdale Air Park studios of Money Radio, and just proud that you guys are on here today. And I've got a great show lined up with Lin Sue Cooney. She is the Director of Community Engagement.
Yeah.
And it is so great to have you back from Hospice of the Valley. Welcome back to the show, Lin Sue.
Oh, Bob, I love to come and be on your show. It's so much fun. I feel like we're just old friends catching up.
We are. we are old friends. We're only missing as Noodles would say, the original. He says I'm the carbon copy, and I know Noodles is a good friend. And
what was the first thing I said when I walked in? How's Noodles?
You did. You asked how he was doing, and he also said that he will have a $2 bill to you at the beginning of 2021.
You're so sweet. It's my good luck charm. It's in my wallet.
I know it. And you know what's interesting? It's just that when you look at someone like my dad, who's going to be 85 years old in a couple months, it's just really hard during these COVID times. You know, we're trying to protect them. We're trying to isolate them and, make sure that they stay away from this god-awful virus.
You know, I think it's super hard on older folks and super hard on kiddos.
Right.
Though they're really taking the brunt of it. The rest of us mask up and go out and, kind of carry on as usual. But the youngsters who are used to playing together and I think elderly people have their group, and they need to have that sense of community, and they're so isolated and shut inside right now because the risk for them, they're so much more vulnerable.
And they were already so socially isolated. We know 1/3 of our population, 65 and older, lives home alone, and now we've isolated them even more so. And really, we've talked about it here on the show. So many of these folks that are living in these communities that joined these communities and became residents because of all the activities are now relegated to staying in their rooms.
Yeah, I mean, not even the dining room.
I know.
That's what families do. They come together at dinner time and they talk about their day and what they heard on the news and their families, what their kids are doing. There's none of that going on. They're just sitting at home, I guess, in front of the television. And it's really, I think depression rates are up. And
they are. And here we are Friday before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So, there are a lot of people this weekend, typically, they take off the entire next week, and they usually have been getting on airplanes, traveling to see family members, or getting in their cars.
Have you flown yet? I haven't done it.
I'm
a little
I am too.
hesitant. I know there are people that really need to for work, or there's a family emergency or an event that they just simply can't miss. And I'm sure they take every precaution. But it's these are such strange times. You think, I just need to minimize the risk. You for Noodles and me for my mom, who's also 84.
Yeah, it makes it really hard. I mean, for me, I will get on a plane if I definitely have to. And I know everything I've read about it, the planes are actually rather safe.
Yeah.
It's the airport that you have to really be worried about. And going into the restroom in the airport, those are things that you have to be cognizant of, and physically distancing and making sure you're wearing your mask. But supposedly the airflow and the way it works in airplanes, the planes themselves are not that dangerous.
Yeah, and maybe the golden silver lining is that afterwards the planes will even be more sanitized, and it'll be a cleaner environment for all of us. Some of that stuff will still stay with us.
Well, I know that this week was a good week. We got great news about vaccinations that are on their
several.
way. Yeah, so we got a couple options, and they were talking about early in Q1 of 2021. So, hopefully COVID won't be dragging on as long as some had predicted.
And that second wave will get knocked right in the teeth, let's hope.
Let's hope, and let's definitely hope. But, I want to go back to something you talked about, and that is the children and the older adults. And it's like, how do we keep them engaged? And certainly somebody that's director of community engagement, that's something that you do at Hospice of the Valley. And certainly Hospice of the Valley has had to do it differently. You've had to figure out, how do we stay engaged, not only with our community, but supporting so many of the families that you guys are serving.
Oh my gosh, we have really adapted. I think everyone's become more flexible and resilient, and I don't even know how the internet providers are handling the increased use
Sure.
of all of us on Zoom and all of us doing our classes. If there's students online, I'm pretty sure it's a huge tax on the system, but we're all going virtual. And we've done it with our virtual volunteer visits to provide companionship, our virtual pet visits. You get little pets on, the camera, and there's that interaction. But we've done a lot of Zoom things. Like right now, you're very familiar with Mary Beth Gallagher.
We had her on the show back in June. Are you kidding me?
She's
She literally is a rock star.
She
And I
is.
didn't even know that.
Yes.
I mean, that is so
yeah,
cool.
she's a good singer. Yeah.
Yes.
But in the world of dementia, she is a rocket scientist. I mean, she knows everything about how that disease progresses, and obviously many, many kinds, all stages and all types of dementia, and how we can engage and make connections with loved ones who day by day, by hour, are losing their cognitive ability. And she has started a beautiful thing called Mondays with Mary Beth. And it's a virtual thing, and it's free, of course. And you come on, and it begins with 10 minutes of meditation.
Oh, wow.
Relaxation. She just soothes your soul. She's got a beautiful voice, and you relax. And then the rest of the time is to talk about what it's like to care for someone with dementia. Am I doing a good job? Is there more I could do? I've got this new behavior. How do I handle it? And everyone is online with the same thing. They have suggestions for you. It's a sharing place and a safe place. And also, it's you're getting the best expertise in our valley from someone who was a caregiver herself.
Right.
To her mother-in-law with dementia until she passed, but now has really just become so knowledgeable about so many areas of dementia, which is, as we know, going to be our next big health crisis in this country because we're an aging population, especially in Arizona.
Especially in Arizona. But it's interesting that you talk about, support groups using Zoom. And the best thing about support groups is, like you said, you can go in there and share your soul, and people understand that what is shared is stayed right there. And a lot of people feel like that they're going at this alone.
Yeah.
And by being in a group, and I would imagine being even in a bigger group with like a Zoom group, you have the diversity, and you have people, even if they're not participating, they're listening,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, wow, I'm going through that same thing.
Right.
And what Mary Beth recommended is going to help me.
Mm-hmm.
So I think these are so important.
And you know what? We're also doing it with our grief support because you obviously can't meet person to person now. Those we do try to keep small and intimate because you're talking about very personal things. And of course, these are all confidential. But the lovely thing about Zoom, you don't have to show your face.
Right.
Right? And sometimes just that little bit of anonymity allows you to open your heart.
Very interesting. And then the other thing about Zoom is you got to make sure you turn your mute button on or off, right?
When you're yelling at the dog?
Yelling at the dog.
Answering your phone.
Or you're trying to talk and you're like, you need to turn your mute button off. It's so much has changed in the way we do things.
It's true.
But you know what? I really like to think that so much is going to change for the good. We're introducing a lot of technology that is actually going to stay, and it needs to stay. I mean, telemedicine is one thing for sure. You know, there are a lot of doctors that are doing telemedicine now, which
Yeah.
they weren't before.
Mhm.
And they are really able to have more meaningful and thoughtful times with their patients because they get to be one-on-one with them. They also get to see the patients where they are
Yeah.
in their home.
Yeah.
And I've had doctors here on the show that say, you know, the person walks me around their house and shows me their room, shows me their pets.
Oh my goodness. So they're getting to know them more personally.
They are. We're down one segment.
Oh, where did it go?
I know. Stick around. I've got Lin Sue Cooney. We'll be right back.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you. And if you're just tuning in, we're in our second segment. I've got Lin Sue Cooney here from Hospice of the Valley. She is the Director of Community Engagement. If you missed our first segment, go up to our website at cypresshomecare.com. The media button is up on the top. Third button down, radio show. You'll catch the first segment. You'll catch a whole lot more that we've been bringing to you almost for 8 years. So, Lin Sue, we were talking about what it's like to really operate during COVID times. And, you know, you talked about the volunteer program, you talked about the grief support program, and you're using technology. And the technology is so wonderful for some of the things that you talked about, people that wanted to remain anonymous and they could turn their video camera off and still participate. Some that are listening and hearing from others and they can totally relate to the experiences that they're going through because they're going through those themselves. You talked about some of the leadership that you have at Hospice of the Valley, and Mary Beth Gallagher, who's she's a rock star and a rocket scientist, as you brought up, and Deb Shumway, you know, we're all big fans of. Who's your leader?
Amazing. Yeah, it takes a village, but it takes extremely strong leaders to guide an agency like ours through a pandemic. You know, we were the only ones in the Valley that were able to provide a safe space for families to say goodbye at the end of life. So, you know, loved ones that were in hospitals, they couldn't have visitors. But we have 9 inpatient units. We are blessed. And so if we were able to transfer patients for them, then we could allow the family to put PPE on and sit at the bedside and be with their loved ones at end of life. And we were the only ones who could do it during COVID. And the stories that we will always hold in our hearts from these family members who said it was everything to us that we got to say goodbye in person. And, you know, it's hard because you're caring for patients, and so much of what we do is our smile.
Right.
And now all they see is eyes and behind goggles most of the time, right? Our care teams are all covered up, and in many cases, even family members who come to visit, you know, people who are on hospice or are chronically ill are masking up as well. And we've had beautiful, beautiful community volunteering where people have called up, you know I can't see my patients in person right now. What can I do? Oh, I'm a seamstress. I'm making masks. And they're delivering hundreds of masks. Hundreds. Or I'm going to the grocery store. You tell me which seniors can't get to the store. Give me their grocery list. Hospice of the Valley is giving them a gift card at the grocery store, and they're shopping for these seniors and dropping them at the doorstep. I mean, otherwise, how are they going to get their groceries?
Exactly. And, you know, it's wonderful what you guys are doing in this, you know, we call them IPUs, inpatient units, that you're able to bring some patients.
We now call them inpatient care homes because they're homes.
Right, inpatient care homes. I love that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you think about how tragic it is for all those folks that are in the hospitals and they're there alone and they're not there to be with their loved ones.
Yes.
And so many, I mean, we've heard the stories on the news programs with, you know, nurses that are there holding the phone for that loved one and
or an iPad, right, or something like that.
It just breaks my heart.
Yeah,
absolutely breaks. And here you talk about masking up, and we were talking about Mary Beth, and we're talking about dementia and Alzheimer's. You know, masks and dementia and Alzheimer's patients. It's a scary proposition.
Very scary. The gloves. They
Yeah.
don't even like being touched with latex gloves. They don't understand.
Right.
It's very hard for them to recognize you. It's a challenge because the biggest and most important thing besides happiness, or maybe along with happiness for a dementia patient, is safety.
Exactly.
So you have to keep them safe.
Well, I love the fact that you are able to give those family members all the PPE that they need, the goggles, the gowns, the face shields, whatever they need to be able to visit with their loved ones is awesome.
It's beautiful. So when you talk about leadership, that's a kind of really, who's ever cared for patients in a pandemic like this? Our leaders rallied and said, okay, we're going to figure this out because we think we can do this and we know we can do it safely. So let's get everything that we need, train everybody the way we need to train them, donning and doffing it off perfectly,
Right.
going from room to room, and let's do this so families can be together. So I love that. But we've just had amazing people in the community. They want to deliver groceries. They want to, they're writing cards. They're coming in. People are donating flowers. Florists are donating flowers. Volunteers are coming in and arranging them and then dropping them at the doorsteps of patients. Anything we can do some of our pet therapists, if they're not doing telephonic visits, they've gone and printed up life-size cardboard cutouts of their pets and dropped them off so patients can put the pet in their room.
I love it.
I know.
It's so clever and creative.
Darling. I mean, it's just, we have for our New Song kiddos who are grieving, right? There's activities for them. They love New Song Night.
Mm-hmm.
So we're sending kits to them and they do it online as we're showing them how to build something, a lantern or whatever it is. And then we have volunteers, and I got to do one, which I loved. We read storybooks online to them. So parents can say, well, why don't you go listen to this amazing book? And they put it online and we read the story and show the pictures and we zoom in so they could see them and we talk to them about it as we're reading. And it's somewhat interactive, but we're just trying to reach across that wall of isolation and break it down.
Absolutely. I want you to talk a little bit more about the volunteer program. And for our listeners, how do they get involved in the volunteer program? You got an incredible leader that's been with Hospice of the Valley for over 20 years, Stacia, who actually was my daughter's volunteer.
Oh, she was a teen volunteer.
She was. So talk to us about that.
Well, that's what I love is that we take them as teens because there's nothing like teaching a young person about service young. So it's ingrained.
Mm-hmm.
They don't wait until they're retired to give back. They give back their whole lives, and they understand the importance of that. So we have a teen volunteer program, and then, of course, we love volunteers of all ages, and we have them of all ages. You simply go to hov.org, and you can type volunteer in the search bar, and the page comes up, and you fill out a form, and then we contact you. So then there is a short orientation, 2 days of classes, and then we match you. Because you might be a great singer, Bob, and you want to do music therapy. So you want a patient that likes music because you're musically talented. You may have the most amazing dog, which I know you're working on because it's still a puppy, and it's going to be a pet therapy dog someday,
right.
And it's going to be fabulous. And so you would get additional training to be a pet therapist because there are some very important things about approaching a patient a certain way, not letting them lick or scratch or sit on cords. Sitting down for a big dog because their head comes up and all of a sudden they're taller and you can pet them when they're sitting. All these things that you would learn.
The dog thing I can do. My wife and family will tell you singing. No,
we don't want that.
I got a great voice for radio, but
okay,
not singing.
I'm going to make a little note. Don't let Bob be a singer. No, and then some of them are bakers, and they do pies and cakes. Some are crafters. Some are just patient, loving. Sit and listen. We have so many beautiful stories of volunteers. One woman was blind at end of life, and her volunteer discovered that she loved roses. And every time he came to visit her, he brought a different rose. He'd let her smell it, feel it.
Oh, wow.
They would talk about the variety. He would research it. He would steal roses off his neighbors. He would buy them at the store. He would go into florist shops and ask for one. But it was just a lovely, beautiful thing. There are just so many ways that a volunteer can tap into what's special. And when you're a patient, if you're a Hospice the Valley patient, you know that every staff person that takes care of you loves their job. It's a calling for us. But we also get paid at the end of the month, right? Or every 2 weeks.
Right.
A volunteer is there for no other reason than their heart tells them they want to be there. And that is just that extra incredible layer of TLC. Somebody who has the time to spend 4 hours with you watching a movie.
So I'm going to ask you a question, and you weren't aware of this, so I'm going to put you on the spot because I know so many of the volunteers are people that experienced Hospice of the Valley. You're one that you're the reason. One of the reasons why you're there is you saw the work that they did, and you joined them. But I mean, so many volunteers
have a story,
and they are connected to HOV, Hospice of the Valley, because of their own experience.
So there's an intellectual. I know what hospice is. It's care in the home, interdisciplinary team, everybody from spiritual care to physical care, emotional, social. But until you've had it, until you see how, so there's a difference between your family and friends loving you and walking alongside you on a hospice journey. They still may not know what to say, right? They're still a little afraid of saying the wrong thing.
Right.
Nobody talks about death. Hospice teams are not afraid of death. They're open, they're honest, they're kind, they're compassionate, they're understanding, they don't judge. It's such a relief to rest in that as a family member and not feel like you don't have support. You have endless support with people who deal with hospice care day in and day out.
It's wonderful. It really is. Well, that's the cue for almost halftime. We're at halftime here at Health Futures.
What's the halftime show?
Well, we'll figure that one out. We'll be right back. I got Lin Sue Cooney. Stick around. We got a whole second half coming up.
Control of your money provides freedom. Learn how to make it, spend it, and invest it. We're Money Radio 1510 and 105.3 FM.
Invest what's your pleasure. A good combination of approaches sometimes works out best. The how-to manual is right here every day on Money Radio.
These last few months have reinforced just how unpredictable the world is increasingly becoming. Right now, we're seeing market highs in the face of economic lows. Professional investors are wisely positioning their portfolios to protect against possible market downturns while still benefiting from the current bull market. So should you. Register for Online Trading Academy's complimentary 3-hour class, Protection from the Election. This new class will explore strategies to protect wealth from instability and capture profits during both bull and bear cycles. Call 844-877-2337 to reserve your complimentary seat in Protection from the Election. Space is limited and all COVID safety measures will be followed. Classes are available in Scottsdale, Chandler, or Peoria. Call 844-877-2337 or text OTA to 31996. Again, call 844-877-2337 or text OTA to 31996.
How do you create certainty with your money in uncertain times? Hi, I'm Ferenc, host of the Your Personal Bank Show. In this low interest rate environment, most financial tools are generating extremely low returns. We have companies who are currently paying 6% plus dividends and have for the past 25 plus years. Let's have a conversation. Contact me at yourpersonalbank.com or tune in to the Your Personal Bank Show Tuesdays at noon or Thursdays at 1 on Money Radio.
Homebuyers, before you choose a real estate agent, join RBN, the Real Buyer Network. Buy a home with an RBN agent and earn American Express membership rewards points. How many points? Buy a $500,000 home and earn up to 500,000 American Express rewards points. Buy a $5 million home and earn up to 5 million American Express rewards points. Join RBN, buy a home, earn points. It's that simple. Visit joinrbn.com to get started. That's joinrbn.com. Buy a home, earn points. Joinrbn.com. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
I'm Jim Chesko with Your Money Now. Stocks are closing out a volatile week with a whimper. The index is right now. The Dow Industrial's down 148 points. The S&P 500 lower by 9. The NASDAQ Composite, though, is up 11 points. Williams-Sonoma late yesterday reported quarterly results that handily beat expectations on both the top and bottom lines, thanks in part to a surge in digital sales. In response, the cookware and home products retailers' shares are up 6.5% today. Canada's Cineplex is the latest movie theater chain to strike a multi-year dynamic window agreement with Universal Pictures, like the deal with Cinemark earlier this week and AMC Theaters before that. Universal and Focus Features films will have at least 3 weeks of theatrical exclusivity before hitting premium video on-demand services. Starbucks has confirmed recent reports now that most of its baristas and cafe attendants will be getting a pay raise of at least 10% as of December 14th. The coffee chain says pay for new hires will be raised by 5% from prior levels. That's your money now.
Thinking about life insurance? What if you could make one free phone call and learn your best price from nearly a dozen highly rated, price-competitive companies? Well, that's exactly what happens when you call SelectQuote Life. For example, George is 40. He was getting sky-high quotes from other companies because he takes meds to control his blood pressure. But when I shopped around, I found him a 10-year, $500,000 policy for under $25 a month. I'm SelectQuote agent Dan Savino. And believe me, if SelectQuote isn't shopping for your life insurance, you're probably paying too much.
For your free quote, call 800-469-7272. That's 800-469-7272. 800-469-7272. Or go to SelectQuote.com. Since 1985, we shop, you save.
Get full details on the example policy at SelectQuote.com/commercials. Or price could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you. I'm your host, Bob Roth, and if you're just tuning in, we're in our second half here. We're coming at you live from the Scottsdale Air Park studios of Money Radio. It is Friday, November 20th, and it is the Friday before Thanksgiving, and I certainly want to send a big shout-out to everyone out there. You know, be safe, be careful, especially during COVID times. I know some people are taking off the entire week next week. We'll be thinking of you, and certainly family is important, but we also want you all to be very, very safe. If you missed our first half, we had an extraordinary first half because Lin Sue, whenever she comes into the studio, we always talk about some great stuff about Hospice of the Valley and what they're doing. So go up to our website at cypresshomecare.com. Click on the media button, third button down is radio show, and you'll catch this show and many, many others. So Lin Sue, you got a big event coming up next week. This Sunday, actually.
It's this Sunday night.
Sunday, yeah.
It is. Well,
Light Up a Life is what it's called.
Have you ever been to the live one?
I have not, but I've seen pictures of it, and you have been on the show probably the last 2 or 3 years promoting it. And, you know, this, because it's going to be different during COVID times, I think you guys will smash all kinds of records because people can do it right from their home.
Well, so that's another silver lining, right? It is
Exactly.
making it much more accessible, and we have never put the show together on tape like that before. So we had a lot of challenges, but we figured them out, and we think the show is absolutely beautiful. We have a couple of really cool things. So first, I guess we should explain what it is.
Yes, please do.
Annual community remembrance event that we do every year around the holidays so that families in our community who are thinking of their loved ones as the holidays approach, missing them, wanting to pay tribute to them and acknowledge them somehow, can all come together, and they're all on the same page. We're all missing our loved ones, and they had beautiful impact on our lives, and they'll always live in our hearts, and we have so many memories to cherish. We do this beautiful photo montage. There's a live choir. Our chaplain closes it. Debbie, of course, opens it. Pat McMahon and I have a little fun part at the beginning, and it's just a beautiful thing. And people come and fill the amphitheater at Steele Indian School Park with, there's 1,500 people, 2,000 people, and some are on the grassy hill with their blankets, and some families come wearing all matching T-shirts with a picture of their loved one on it. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. Some families come year after year.
And you don't have to have used Hospice of the Valley services.
No.
It's open to the community.
It is. You just have to have a loved one that's not with you anymore that you're missing, and we're there to help you. And then we have grief support counselors there as well that can talk to you afterwards. But this beautiful montage is set to music, and we have a choir, and it's been Valley Youth Theater Teens for the last couple of years. And we thought, well, that is a a really important part. How do we do that? So guess what? Valley Youth Theater was brilliant. They had their 15 kids sing remotely from their own bedrooms.
Wow.
And, do the selfie recording. Then they edited it all together, and they're in boxes virtually, but they're all singing their individual parts, and it sounds amazing.
Wow.
It's
well, first
beautiful.
of all, Bob Cooper, he's a rock star himself, and I one of my children, the one that is in television, came up through Valley Youth Theater, and so many great actors and actresses today.
Emma Stone, right?
Yeah, Emma Stone. She was known as Emily Stone, but ended up changing her name. But so many of them came up through that program. So they're so professional.
They are
amazing.
so well. These kids sound amazing. We couldn't believe it. And then the montage is photos of loved ones dissolving to popular music. But this year, the very last song that we have is recorded by Alan Naplin, who is director of Arizona Music Fest. And it's a song that he and some other rabbis wrote together, and it's called "We Remember Them." And the words.
Oh, I know the song.
Oh,
Yeah.
you do?
Oh, yeah. We sing that all the time during the high holidays.
It's absolutely gorgeous.
It is. I mean, I have.
And he sang it as a
I have
soloist.
chills.
Oh.
I have chills.
It does give you chills. It's the perfect song to end the montage with. Your heart just feels so open and full.
Yeah, we do that during Yom Kippur and when we're remembering our loved ones. And certainly, how does our listeners find out about this? How can they attend? Because now you don't have to go down to Indian School
Because we won't be there.
Yeah,
we won't be there.
And you won't need blankets. You won't need jackets. You can do
well,
it.
maybe it'll be cool. You can light a fire in the fireplace and cuddle under a blanket. But we usually have cookies and hot chocolate, so you're going to have to bake your own, I guess. But it's going to be from your living room. AZTV Channel 7, and it's going to run at 5 o'clock from 5 to 6 p.m. The neat thing about it is, at some point you have to stop the cutoff for photos because families send us photos. And there's always a few that think of it a week later or something like that. And our deadline was pretty firm because we had to get the show edited to the television station so they could close caption it for us. So we did something new this year on our website. On that Sunday, this Sunday, we're going to have a virtual memorial table. So if you came to the event and you were too late to be in the show, you could set your loved one's photo on this beautiful table that was lit and people could see it. And now we're going to post it on our virtual table. So it's a page on our website, hov.org. You just go and type in "Light Up a Life" and it'll take you to the virtual table.
And if you missed the show between 5 and 6, will you have it up on your website?
Yes, AZTV is going to actually put it on their website where it can live there for a full year until the next year. So you can easily hit the share link and send it to relatives all over the world.
Love it. What a great program you guys have really pulled together here in the community. For how many years has it been going on?
Oh my gosh, I don't even know. Way before I got there. I want to say decades, but I don't know how many.
Wow. I've known it ever since I've been involved at Cypress, and I'm up at 20 years. So
yeah, I believe that. It's such a beautiful thing to do because if you're grieving at the holidays, you're dreading them, right? Because it's so much work and everybody wants you to put up the tree and do the baking and go to all the parties, maybe not this year, the parties, as if nothing has changed. And in your world, everything has changed forever.
And the memories that you have around the holidays of those loved ones.
You don't know how you're going to go on.
Right. They're ingrained in your mind, and you can't think of a holiday without that loved one. Yeah.
And so we've actually kind of in tandem with this, have some Zooms coming up to help people who are coping with grief at the holidays, because you need to give yourself permission to say, if my sister were going through this, I would tell her, honey, don't put up the tree this year. Don't worry about presents. I'll do the cooking. So do that for yourself. Be as kind to yourself as you would to someone you love. So all of these lovely tips, maybe pick one tradition that was really wonderful and change it a little. So if you used to do gingerbread houses and that's too heartbreaking, but you want to acknowledge them, now you're going to do gingerbread men cookies.
There you go.
a spin on it that
Right.
still acknowledges them and still has the tradition for family members who look forward to it, or whatever you have to do. But so many helpful tips. So this, and then I should also mention the night of Light Up a Life, even though it's virtual, we actually anticipate that more people may watch. So more people may be at home in the comfort of their homes, and more people may be hurting after watching it. So we are going to have, I believe, 8 or more grief counselors standing by to take phone calls. And then we can also call you back the next day if you can't get through, because we think it will maybe touch some people who need someone to talk to, who maybe never did talk and never did start that healing process. So we want to make sure that we, not only help you acknowledge and love your loved one, but then help you
I love
heal.
that. I love that. And 8 grief counselors that'll be available to
On a
take
Sunday night.
On a Sunday night.
Yeah. And they're all like, of course we would do this.
Right. Oh, absolutely. We just have a couple seconds here before we close our third segment here, and I just want to tee up the fourth segment. And I really want to talk about the work in dementia, and you got this dementia campus that is going to open in 2021, which is really exciting. So I'm hoping you can give us an update on that.
I can't even wait.
And then also update us on anything else that is going on.
How
with
about
hospice.
our Jewish accreditation?
Yes, I want to hear about that too. That's really exciting that you got that accreditation. And you are one of 2 that have that in the state of Arizona, which is fantastic. And it's something that you've always done. I mean, you've always had clergy. You've had all denominations available to the people and those families that are grieving and dealing with death and dying. So we're down 3.
Okay.
We got a great tunes taking us out. James is our engineer extraordinaire. He's also our photographer. Lin Sue Cooney, Director of Community Engagement, Hospice of the Valley's here in the studio. We got one more segment. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you. I'm your host, Bob Roth, and if you're just tuning in, we're in our fourth segment. I got Lin Sue Cooney, the Director of Community Engagement from Hospice of the Valley here in the studio, and we've been talking all about all the great things that Hospice of the Valley is doing. We talked about Light Up Your Life event that's coming up on Sunday. It is from 5 to 6. You can catch it on AZTV Channel 7.
Yep.
And you can also catch it up on their website or up on hov.org. So please don't miss that. But we also talked about, as we ended our third segment, we talked about some of the things that is new at Hospice of the Valley. So one of them is something you've got right in front of you, this enhanced care for the Jewish community. So please do share with us.
So we have been doing, we pride ourselves on individualized care. If you are Native American and you want a medicine man dance at your bedside, we're going to provide that for you. I mean, we respect all faiths, all beliefs.
I love
that. Because we're there to support you on your journey wherever you are. That is our privilege and our honor. And that is our mission.
Mm-hmm.
But we have always tailored our care to be culturally sensitive. If you speak only Spanish, we have a Spanish care team taking care of you. Because can you imagine being told you need a treatment or a medicine, or you have a new ache or pain and you can't express it or understand it?
Right.
And when it comes to our Jewish community, we've always provided that culturally sensitive care. Whether it was Shabbat meals, partnering with Kibbutz, and providing kosher meals in our inpatient care homes, having rabbis on staff for people who wanted spiritual care, and our Shabbat Blessings program, which I don't know if you know about this.
I don't.
So we have Jewish volunteers who are specially trained to give Shabbat blessings.
Oh, I love it.
To families in their home because they're not able to go to temple to get that.
And how are we doing that now during COVID? Are they doing it
So
virtually?
we are preparing everything and giving the instructions to a family member.
Nice.
To provide it.
Nice.
We can also do it virtual, but it's more personal, obviously, if a family member can do it. So we can wrap up all the, everything, all the parts of it, right?
Oh, absolutely. The challah and
the
the
linens and the chalice, everything
Right.
that needs to go. And then I guess there are certain prayers that need to be read, correct?
There are.
And so if family members aren't familiar with all of that, that could be printed out. So we do whatever is necessary to give them that experience, because that's what they're missing and that's
Sure.
what they want.
Oh, absolutely.
So we were doing all of this care, and it came to our attention that there was a National Institute of Jewish Hospice who was accrediting hospices who went that extra mile to provide that extra care, that superb care for the Jewish community. And the one thing they also wanted hospices to do was to educate their entire care team, their staff, even administrative staff, on the unique aspects of Jewish grief and mourning. And you probably know those
I do.
intimately.
I do. I mean, there's a certain way you have to wash the body, and you can't leave the person alone, and there's some blessings that you're supposed to be saying. So all of that is now part of what Hospice of the Valley is
And it
doing.
has to be done in a certain timeline, correct?
Exactly.
Yeah, so such respect for that. So we had I want to say, 90-some page PowerPoint that every single staff person viewed to be educated.
Wow.
So that was a component of this as well.
And we're not talking just a couple people. How many people?
1,500.
1,500 people.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. So it was a priority for us, because we said we are doing this care. We want the Jewish community to have the confidence in us and know that we are sensitive to what they need on their journey.
Exactly. And that's just so important. And I loved how you talked about how you serve all types. And if you need a medicine man, they're going to be there. You need a priest, you can have a priest. You can have a rabbi. You can have that person that they need to really get them on their journey.
So I know you've had Jewish families that have been on hospice care. What are some of the things, because I'm just curious, what else we could be doing to serve that population that we may not have even thought of?
I think you've actually thought of everything that I've ever come across. So, I mean, it's one of those things that it's not just, and you know this better than I do, it's not just the person that's going through that journey, it's the family that is as well.
Yes.
So they're all looking for spiritual answers, and they want to understand, what does this mean spiritually? How's this journey going to affect me? And so many people are looking for, comfort. They're looking for, maybe a miracle.
Yes.
What do these things look like? And they need just somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
So I think that's the most important thing, is to have somebody that can help provide answers that really hit to their faith and their well-being.
I'll tell you, our Shabbat Blessings volunteers are so honored. They feel such gratitude to be able to do this. We have a little video clip that's in one of our videos that we teach, that we show our new orientation, volunteer orientation. And the woman says, the patient was pretty non-responsive when I got there, and I wasn't sure any of it was getting through. And I did my blessing. I did everything I was supposed to do. And at the end, I said, Shabbat Shalom. And he said right back to me, Shabbat Shalom.
Wow.
She said he heard every word.
Mm.
It is important.
It is.
And she was so fulfilled. She just didn't know, but she did her best. And it was the most beautiful thing she could have done.
Listen, we talked with Mary Beth Gallagher back in June, and we talked about the importance of song. And, and the same goes with the melodies and the chants that come with the blessings. And those things are kind of, ingrained in the mind, and they still reside there, and they remain there.
Yeah. I mean, some people, the Lord's Prayer, it gives them that same sense of peace because they grew up with it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we have about 30 seconds.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you, what lasting thought you might want to leave with our audience? What question have I not asked?
So we mentioned the campus. So very quickly, I'm going to say construction is moving along. It's at 44th and Indianola, which is south of Indian School. It's going to be a state-of-the-art campus that does all stages and all types of dementia and has an education center that is there to help everyone in our community who is caring for a loved one with dementia learn to not just live with dementia, but live well with dementia. We're hoping to open next fall.
Intergenerational.
Yes.
Which is, I think, phenomenal, is the fact that you bring in children and older adults together.
Yes.
And, I've passed by there months ago, and I saw it was all graded.
Things are popping up now. Yeah.
They're
above ground.
They are above ground.
Because the parking's below, so that's a big thing to do.
Wow, so they had to dig deep.
Yeah.
Deeper than those shovels that you guys stuck in the ground when you did the grand opening.
Yes,
That's
for sure.
That is for sure. So as we wind down, any other lasting thoughts you want to leave? Light up your life.
Yes, do join us for Light Up a Life. It's beautiful, and I think if you watch it, you'll be inspired to send a photo next year. Do you know how many photos we had this year?
I have no clue.
996.
Wow.
That's how many.
Was that the
lives.
most ever?
It is.
The most ever.
It is the most ever.
996.
Yeah, we might need a second hour next year.
So I want to pay tribute to you, and this is not only National Hospice and Palliative Care Month, it's National Family Caregiver Month, and you are a caregiver to your mom, and your mom and my dad are about the same age, and you're safeguarding and protecting her. Kudos to you.
Well, to
you're
everyone out
unsung
there,
heroes.
Everyone who's out there doing it, we love them to pieces, and we just want to keep them safe.
Thank you, Lin Sue. You've been listening to Health Futures.
Plays like home. You've been listening to Bob Roth's Health Futures. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call Cypress Home Care Solutions at 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Or visit cypresshomecare.com. Be sure to join Health Futures with Bob Roth every Friday at noon, right here on Money Radio 1510 and 105.3 FM.